Hi, this is Polk Payton, and I'm coming to you with my blog number 20. I said that in my last blog, but actually that was blog number 19, so I got it right with the numbering, but I said it wrong on the video, and I wasn't going to record the whole video just because I got re-record the whole video just because I got one word wrong. So anyway, this is blog number 20, and this blog is going to be entitled Hindsight. Last month I went to, well actually it was the end of May, I went to a retreat down in Miami after I left Anaheim, California. And at the end of the retreat, we did this church service. It was kind of like a church service, but it was more of a spiritual encounter. It was for women of any religion, who could, just be at one with their God and just have some peace and deal with some things. And it was really a beautiful experience. I didn't want to get up that morning because we had been to the Bahamas the day before, and and then at night we had a slumber party with karaoke contest. I mean, we had a great time. But so the next morning, the spiritual encounter was at 7 a.m. So it was like I got 4 or 5 hours sleep. I was hot. I didn't want to get up. But I am so glad that I got up, because when I got up, I was able to, just commune with God and be at one with God, just have some, just feel a peaceful interaction. And the one of the things that we had to do, it was like a little ritual, and we took a bowl of water, clear water, and a sheet of paper and a pen, and we wrote that thing that we needed to let go of down on that sheet of paper. And I don't have a problem letting go. I am one of those people who, if it don't work out, it just don't work out. I'll move on to my next endeavor. I got other things to do. When I don't pout about things. I just move on to the next thing that I can do something about, and I just keep it moving. But there was one thing in my life that I have had a difficult time letting go of, and the reason that I had a difficult time letting go of, because it's very, very hard to get close to me. It is. It's just hard to get close to me because I don't trust easily. But once I let somebody inside, it's almost impossible for me to let them out. It's like my heart is like a steel vault. It's like it's very hard to gain access to it. But once you're inside, it's hard for me to let the wrong things out, and it's hard for me to let the right things in. So, or anything in. It's hard for me to let anything right or wrong in. But when I let something in, it's hard for me to push it out, even when it's time to push it out. So I wrote my one thing on that sheet of paper that I was having a difficult time letting go of, and then she told us to like rub the paper and try to rub the ink off the paper to rub out, that thing that was just like delaying our lives, and that was, just keeping us bound. And I started rubbing on that sheet of paper, and the next thing I know, my piece of paper was like, I ain't lying, it was like flakes of mashed potatoes. When you have when you're getting ready to make mashed potatoes, you put those little flakes in the water. It was like flakes of mashed potatoes in that bowl, because I had rubbed so hard, and I was just like, trying to, just not see it anymore. And so, then later on that night, most of the women left that day, but we stayed until Tuesday. So that night, later on that night, I was talking to an older lady in the group, and she was one of the spiritual leaders that prayed for us and helped us to facilitate the encounter and the process we had gone through that morning. And she I was talking to some of my friends. We were talking about my book and, talking about men and relationships and everything. And I was telling them that I hadn't been in a real relationship in a very long time. And it had been almost 2 years since I allowed somebody to really get close to me. And so, and I said it took a long time for me to get over it. I'm not sure. At that time I said, I'm not sure if I'm over it or not. I honestly don't think that I'm over it. And so, we were just sitting there talking, and this lady, Miss Treva, she said to me, it was like a lull in the conversation for a second. Then Miss Treva said to me, she was like, "Gay." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, I know why you're having such a hard time getting over him." And I was like, "Ma'am," because it's just like people have been saying that to me, because I only confide in a handful of friends of mine. There are very few people that I confide in, and usually when I confide in somebody, it's somebody who doesn't live anywhere near where I live, so there would be no way they would know him. And so, so I was, as skeptical about what she had to say as I was about the retreat, because I didn't want to go on the retreat because I just don't do a bunch of women. I'm in a sorority. I love my sorors, but I don't do a whole bunch of women in groups, because usually when you hear the words empowerment conferences, sometimes it will turn into a blame session and a whining session, and I don't do well with whining and with people blaming other people for their problems. I don't do well with that. So, and my tolerance for it is kind of low. I'm good at encouraging people, but if you want to wallow in it, I'm not going to help you wallow. I'm not going to attend your pity party. I'm going to let you look around. I'm going to show you some things that you can look at, and so you can see how blessed you are, so that you can get up out your pity party and move on with your life. But so I don't, and so I thought that retreat was what it was going to be, another pity party with women whining about their issues, but it wasn't. It was so far from that. Oh my God, it was so far from that. It was absolutely incredible. I don't think you can sign up for the Exhale 2015 anymore. I think the registration is closed, but if you can't go to Exhale 2016, because I will be there. I've already enrolled. I enrolled for 2015 before I even left 2014, because it was just that phenomenal. But anyway, I digress. You see how I get off on tangents? I do it every time. Anyway, so Miss Treva was like, I know why you're having such a hard time getting over him. And here I was rolling my eyes like, yeah, whatever. And so I was like, ma'am, and I listened to her. But I mean, I respect people who, I respect people who are in positions of authority, and I respect people who are older than me, and I respect women who have been where I am. And so I listened, even though I didn't want to listen because I didn't think she had anything new to say, I still listened to her. And I turned around and I was like, yes, ma'am. And she said, the reason you're having such a hard time getting over him is because you are a judge and you're a lawyer. She said, and one of your jobs is to look at people and tell whether or not they're telling the truth, and whether or not they are trying to mislead you, and take you down a path to make you forget about what actually happened. And so she said, and so because of the fact that you do that for a living, and that's been your profession for 18 plus years, she said, you're having a difficult time figuring out how you got hoodwinked. How you were so blind that you could not see that this man did not want a real relationship. How could you not see that this man didn't want what you wanted? And I was just sitting there looking at her like this. Because it's like I had been writing that in my journal. I had been dealing with that on my own. It's just like, and I would, my friends would always ask me, my close friends would ask me, how are you doing? Are you dealing with things okay? Blah, blah, blah. Because when people see me out, I'm still me. I'm gay. I'm just happy. When people see me, I don't walk around looking pitiful. That's just not something I do. But the people who really knew me, could look in my eyes and see that I was still so very hurt. And so, they would ask me about it, and I would talk to them and tell them, I'm doing fine, blah, blah, blah. But I never really talked to anybody about the underlying issue, the thing that I had been writing about in my journal, and the fact that I just don't know how I didn't see, how I was so blinded, and how I was so caught up that I didn't see what was slapping me in my face. And I mean, it was like Miss Treva broke it down to me, just like to the lowest common denominator. And I just got up from my chair and I just went over to her and I hugged her. And I mean, it was just like, I was like, thank you so much. And I don't know if it happened with the bowl experience. I don't know if what I talked to about with Miss Treva made it happen. I don't know what it was. But when I came back from my trips from Anaheim, from Miami, because I went straight from Anaheim to Miami, then back home. But when I came back, I felt so free. I felt like a convict who had just been released on parole and was going to his mama's house to eat his mama's home cooking for the first time. I felt so free, and and since then I felt so free. I've been so happy. I've just been feeling good, and I've just been feeling wonderful. And so, I wrote a PSA yesterday, and I put it on my Facebook page yesterday, and I put it on my PSA fan page today, and it was about hindsight. And someone posted the other day that, don't be bitter about the relationship that God saved you from, because, even though you are caught up in your feelings, God is more concerned about your purpose, and that person was not a part of your purpose. And even though I didn't know that, God knew that. And I mean, it was just like, oh my, I mean, it's just like I've been having epiphany after epiphany after epiphany, and realizing that where I was going, who I would have been with him, I couldn't go there. I couldn't go where I'm going and where I've been going if I would have been who I would have been with him. Not that I don't think I would have been happy, because, the way that I loved him, it would have been enough for me to just be with him and be happy with him. But, the purpose, the plan that God has for me is to get my message to women and to let women know that you can overcome any situation. I lost my father 3 weeks before I graduated from law school, and my mother died 17 months later when I was 2 months pregnant with my son. My son is a cancer survivor. He had to go through 7 rounds of chemo and 31 sequential radiation treatments and 4 surgeries for his cancer treatment. And I did that as a single parent, dealing with that. And so it's just like the things that I go through and the things that I go through in life, other women aren't far removed from it, and that's why I have to share my testimony, even my testimony of a broken heart, because when you are going through that situation where your heart is broken and you don't know how you're going to deal with your feelings, it's just like when you see that somebody else has gone through that exact thing, and when you see that somebody else is going through that exact thing, it gives you the strength to think and to believe, I can get out of this too. I am now grateful for my heartbreak, because it's just like, people, how can you be grateful for heartbreak? Because it has been used as a catalyst for God to make me stronger and for me to put my message out. I would have never written my book if I hadn't been where I had to be in order to meet the person who led me to writing my book. Because like I said in my first ever blog that I posted in my blogs, I said that I met this lady and she read some of my public service announcements, and she said, these are really good, you should publish these. And I told her I didn't have time to write a book, and she said, well, you don't have to write it. You've put these PSAs on Facebook for the last 4 years. All you got to do is collect them and put them together and put them in a book. And so that's what I did. I put my PSAs in a book, and now I've written a book about my PSAs. And I've actually written 2 books about my PSAs. My second book is going to be entitled, This Has Been Yet Another Public Service Announcement, and I'm going to release that sometime in the fall, probably close to Christmas. Anyway, I think I took my book. No, here's a copy of my book. Here's my book. It's called This Has Been a Public Service Announcement, and that's me on the cover, and this is me on the back, and it tells you a little bit about my biography and gives you more information about me and my background. But anyway, and when I first met her, I was singing at a women's conference, and I was so excited about the women's conference because Shirley Murdoch was there, and I was singing The Battle is the Lord's, and Shirley Murdoch was standing there singing background for me, and I was like sitting there like, oh my God, I was singing and I was witnessing, and then I just like, oh my God, Shirley Murdoch is singing background vocals for me. And then when I sang Alabaster Box, she gave me a standing ovation, and I got a standing ovation from the legend, the lady, Shirley Murdoch. Oh my God, she is fantastic. Y'all have no idea. That woman, everything that she showed herself to be in the 80s, that's who she is today. I mean, she's fantastic. But anyway, so after I met my publisher at that conference, and then after that, that's when she was exposed to my PSAs and told me that I should put them in a book. And so that's been done. But the thing about it is, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think that I would have been where I needed to be to do what I needed to do had I not gone through what I went through with that relationship. And so, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the heartbreak. And the same way that I thank my first love. My first love broke my heart, and he didn't give me what I thought I wanted from him. And what I thought I wanted from him was a bunch of babies and a wedding ring. He didn't give me the bunch of babies and a wedding ring that I wanted. What he gave me was emptiness. He emptied me. I mean, it's just like, because I gave everything I had emotionally to that relationship. So he emptied me. And when he emptied me, God was able to fill me with the things that he wanted for me. I was filled with my bachelor's degree in business. I was filled with my master's degree in business. I was filled with my Juris Doctor, which is my law degree. I was filled with my license to practice law. These are things that I was able to deal with, and things that I was able to accomplish because I was left so empty by this relationship that ended so abruptly that I wasn't ready for it to end. And And it was the same thing that happened to me in 2012. You know, it's just like I didn't even realize that I was falling in love. I talked about that in my How Will I Know video. I think it was blog number 16 or 17. But I talked about that in my How Will I Know video. It's like I didn't even realize I was falling in love. And once I fell in love, that's when I opened my eyes and I turned around and I looked. And I was like, oh my God, he ain't thinking about me. You know, and it's just like, I didn't, you know, because sometimes, you know, that's when you get hurt the most, is when you're sitting at the red light and you thinking that you cool, you chilling, you sending that text message that you waiting to send because you were in traffic and you couldn't text, or you answering a call, returning a call, blah, blah, and you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden a Mack truck just hits you from behind. That's how it feels to fall in love when you don't even know what's happening to you. So the point of this PSA and this blog is to let you know that hindsight will let you know that what you thought that you wanted, it just may not be what God has for you. And you have to empty yourself of what you think you want so that God can fill you with what He knows is best for you. He knows, even though you don't know. We don't know about tomorrow. One of my favorite songs is I Don't Know About Tomorrow, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Many things about tomorrow I don't understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand. And that way, with that knowledge, I can get through anything that comes to me in my life. Whatever I have to go through, I know that God is going to be there with me, holding my hand. It's like He's not going to remove my obstacles, but He's going to give me everything I need to deal with my obstacles. So that's why I have gotten so good at turning my obstacles into opportunities. But I was having trouble with that obstacle. I was having trouble climbing that wall because I didn't want to climb that wall and get to the other side of what was on that wall. I wanted to run back to what was on the side, on that same side of that wall. But what was on the same side of that wall was not available to me. It wasn't. And so I was there at the wall. So I had to either climb that wall or just sit down on that side of the wall and cry and look at what wasn't available to me anymore. And so I decided that what I was going to do is climb that wall and get to the other side of that wall so that I could see what was ahead of me, because what was ahead of me couldn't be seen. I was blocked from with that wall had blocked me from what was ahead of me, and I couldn't see anything but what was behind me. So climb your wall. Get whatever tools you need to climb your wall, get those tools and climb that wall. Because hindsight, when you get to the top of that wall and you look back at what God has delivered you from, and you look back at the things that you have accomplished and the things that you would not have been able to accomplish had you stayed at the bottom of that wall, then you will be able to appreciate the things that you went through. You will be able to appreciate the love that you may have lost. Human beings are flawed, and they are going to hurt you. They're going to hurt you either involuntarily, or they'll hurt you involuntarily because they're flawed physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally. People are flawed in those 4 ways, and they will hurt you either intentionally or unintentionally. But human beings are built to hurt other human beings, and that is why we have to build our hopes on things eternal, because the world is ever changing. The only thing that does not change is God. And the only things that are constant are God and change. So that means that you have to move with the cheese and go to where the cheese is. My cheese was on the other side of that wall, and I had to climb that wall in order to get there. And so at this time, I can thank God for bringing people into my life. I appreciate Him for bringing Judge Adrienne Haynes into my life, because if I hadn't met her, I would have never met Charla. And if I hadn't met and Charla Young, I thank God for you. And if I hadn't met Charla, I would have never met Miss Treva Donald. I thank God for Miss Treva Donald. If I hadn't met, God will put people in your path that will take you where He wants you to go. But you have to be open to Him. You cannot sit in your house and cry and wallow in your self-pity. You got to get out and get to where you need to be in order to get what God has for you. That's all I have to say. I know this was like a sermon and a lecture, but that's what God gave me to give to you today. And I want you to look at your hindsight, but don't look at your hindsight standing on the ground. Get up on top of that wall and look at your hindsight, and then you'll be able to see what God delivered you from, and then you'll be able to turn around and see what He has for you in your future. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you guys again on Sunday. Be blessed.